Hello? Oh, that's. Ugh. Hi, welcome back to Mason's Substation. Today we have an artist in the booth. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Marilyn. Nice to meet everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Mason.
Thank you for coming in. Marilyn is a Richmond based pop artist with. Um, oh, wait. God, my brain is blanking. Oh, 4,500 Instagram followers and 330 monthly listeners. And her first song, Vibe with Me, was has 44,000 views at this point, right?
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Just crazy. Yeah.
What do you think about that song's success? I mean, you released it in 2020 during
hmm
the height of the pandemic, I believe, right?
hmm Yeah. It was crazy, honestly. It was my first song I had ever released, and I just made it for fun. It was during quarantine, and I came across this beat. This is before I had released any music. And I was on Instagram and I was looking through beats. I was actually looking through hashtags, and I was looking through the hashtag like producer
Hmm.
and trying to find all these beats. And then I wrote lyrics to this beat. I actually commented on it and I was like, dude, this beat is so fire. And he was like, you can have it. Like, here you go, take it. And I was like, crazy. So I recorded it on my laptop, no auto tune, nothing technical because I didn't know what I was doing. I
Hmm.
recorded it on GarageBand in my room, and then I asked my friend Isaiah to be on it with me, and he and recorded it with me. So it was just for fun, and when the response came out the way it did, it was more than I ever could
Because
imagine.
it kind of blew up, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of people. At least from what I remember from when it came out, it was a lot of people going like, oh my God, you do music now?" type thing.
Yeah,
Like you have
yeah.
music out on Spotify, and it's kind of growing really fast.
Mhm.
Wow. Um, yeah, that's I didn't know that that was just sort of like a spur of the moment, like, oh my God, this beat's so good kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, it was not like planned. I wasn't like, "Oh, I'm going to release music now." I'd always loved music. I'd always loved singing. It had always been like a little dream of mine, but I didn't that wasn't purposefully my way of starting.
Mhm.
It's just kind of how it happened, and once it did get the response it did, and once I did realize how much I loved making music, it was like, "All right, this is what I want to do."
Yeah, because I noticed in listening to it has a very different sound than basically everything else you've
Yeah,
done.
yeah.
It's got this sort of like neo soul, like bedroom pop type of thing, which
Mhm.
everything else doesn't really share. Especially your EP after that, All Eyes
Mhm.
on Me,
Mhm.
which is it's already got some of the I think some of the pop rock stuff you're gonna go on to do in your
Yeah.
most recent album. Um, Going into making All Eyes on Me, going into this sort of like, okay, I'm making an actual focused project now.
Mhm.
What do you think what was the difference like in making sort of that just sort of random song in your bedroom versus going in and actually being like, let's make an EP here.
Right. So, I wrote Vibe with Me, and that song, as much as I love it, didn't really have much intention behind it. It was like, okay, vibe with me. Like, it was like fun. It was meant to sound like pretty, didn't really have a story behind it. Um, and then I released Rooftops shortly after that because I'd gone through my first little heartbreak in life. And that's what a lot of my music is based off of, just like pain. I don't know how else are you supposed to let it out,
Yeah.
and it's a healthy way. So I'm grateful for music. But the EP, I had released Clarity, and everyone and their mother loved Clarity. It had like the catchy chorus, and everybody was singing it, and I was
Mhm.
like, okay, like now I want to release something that has is a project. I
Mhm.
feel like I'm doing all these singles. I want to have a project just cuz why not? All Eyes on You was basically the story behind All Eyes on You. So I say All Eyes on You and Wishful Thinker, the first song on the EP, and it's basically about just okay, I want to do music. I'm at this really weird state in my life where it's like I'm getting old, I'm starting to become an adult. Everybody's like going to be looking at me. That's how I feel like every
Mhm.
I have all this pressure on me from my family, from my friends, from myself. Um and that's basically what the whole how the whole EP came about. So it's not just about like my heartbreak, but it was also just like, all right, like I want to do justice, like for my talent, for my worth, for myself. Like I just want to make a great EP. And the last song on that EP, Enemy, was basically how I was becoming. So a lot of people are like, oh, like you're dead to me, my enemy. Like that, they think it's about like a boy. Like none of that song is about a boy. It's all about myself, like being my own enemy, just self-doubt and all that stuff. So that's kind of the inspiration behind that EP.
Because, and sorry for getting the name wrong. It is all.
No, yeah, it's all right. It's all right.
Before that, you mentioned Clarity. You also had a single, Rooftops, which is that's in between All Eyes on You and Vibe with Me. Would you consider that sort of the moment where you were like, this is something I'm going to take seriously now?
Yeah, that was my first song I ever recorded in a studio as well. I was like, I want to go to a studio. I saved up all my money. I was like working at a little Thai restaurant at the time. I was like, I'm going to go to a real studio and see how it goes. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so awesome. Like when I went in there, like the way like they could just make you sound however you want. They could like add however many layers you want. Like I don't know how to do any of that stuff yet. I want to learn. But it was really cool. And that's also my dad's favorite song, which like also made me want to like go more into music, because I'm very grateful that I have family that supports me in the way they do. But my dad was like, oh, like I can relate to this so much, and he really had faith in me. My mom really had faith in me, and I was like, my family really believes in me so much, and I believe in myself. Like if there's a will, there's a way. So Rooftops definitely was like, okay, like there's gonna be a lot more from here.
And speaking on Clarity, that's your first collaboration, or at least first recorded collaboration on your end with
Pino, yeah.
Pino.
Yeah.
And he sort of, the two of you seem to pop up a lot within each other's music, especially more recently. How did that collaboration come about?
So, crazy story. Pino, he is one of my best friends till this day. He is like a ride or die in my life. So I met Pino through a group of friends. We had the same friend group. We met up, and we had a lot of friends who did make music, and that's also what got me into music. We would sit down, and we would just put on beats and freestyle, like us and all our friends, and it was just fun. Like that's what music is really all about. It's just having fun and enjoying yourself. And we pull up the beat for Clarity. We're like, all right, let's just sing these little songs. And Clarity was actually a freestyle. Like that's how we came up with the chorus and everything. We put on this beat and we're just freestyling it. And I was like, we finished that freestyle, because once you start freestyling, like you're in a flow, right? Yeah. And once we finished it, we were like, oh my,
we should record this.
Yeah, like there wasn't an option to not record it. Like we had to record it. So we ended up recording it and like writing it, and we were like, this is amazing. And he's just one of my favorite people to still make music with, just because he's like in the same boat as I am. We're both very motivated, and we both know this is what we want to do. And so just from there on out, like we would just freestyle together. We would write songs, and I'd be like, oh, I really like this song, but like I want Pino on it. Or like he also does audio engineering, so he'll mix some songs for me. So there's a couple songs of mine that he's mixed and he's not even on. But like when we make music together, it's like we have such a great contrast, and we have such similar yet such very different styles where we just work and it just clicks. And especially since he's one of my best friends, it just works.
Excuse me. And then yeah, I mean, I think your collaborations between the two of you have a very certain chemistry and a very certain vibe that's very you don't see that a lot with very many rapper singer collaborations. Those are sort of like that power duo type of thing.
Yeah.
But going on from All Eyes on You, we go to From Here, which I don't think has shown up on a project. It wasn't on All Eyes on You or on Luxury, your newest one.
Yeah, that was my first like single after the EP, I would say.
And that was that just another spur of the moment type of decision? Like, I'm going to record this right now just to sort of wrap everything up for this era, so to speak?
Honestly, I don't really. When I write music, it's not really like, oh, what's going to come after this, or what do people want to hear? It's mainly like, what am I feeling? I'm sad in my bedroom. I want to write music, so I don't have to be sad. Or at least like, I'm not really good at expressing my emotions, like, verbally to people, like, sitting down with a friend and being like, I'm sad and this is why. I can't even, like, find words for it, and that's why I love music, because it's, like, can be a metaphor, it can be whatever you make it to be, to express how you feel. Music is, like, more of a feeling, and so from here, I wrote that, oh gosh, after the EP, I was, like, sad. Like, I was doing all these shows, and then the shows were kind of slowing down. I was like, okay, like, everything looked so bright, and now everything's kind of slowing down. Like, reality was kind of hitting in. And so I was like, where do we go from here? Like, what am I supposed to do? How am I supposed to be successful? And that was really, like, the inspiration behind it. So it wasn't necessarily like, oh, I need to release something after this EP. It was more of like, I wrote this song because this is how I was feeling, and I thought it was good.
Yeah.
And I was going through a lot at the time, so.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's a very good song. All your songs are very good.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
But from there, we go on to Sugar. And Sugar's sort of a change in direction for you.
Yes.
For it's a almost pop rock, pop punkish type thing. And I believe you had a backing band for the song, or you had at least a band in this helping you out with it.
Yeah, Carol Crumbs. So Carol Crumbs, all of the dudes in Carol Crumbs, they're a little rock band. I've known them since middle school. All of them. Mateo and Murphy. I've known Murphy, the bassist, since I was in first grade. You're in the same first grade class, so they're my friends. So I think you'll actually really enjoy this story. Sugar, this is the first song I ever wrote, was Sugar.
Really?
I wrote it without a band. I wrote it after my first breakup. Like, straight out of middle school breakup. Like, I was, like, 10. I don't know how old I was. And I was, like so pressed, because I've never, like, I've been broken up with. And I was, like, how dare you crush my ego like that? And I wrote this in my bedroom. It was the first song I ever wrote, and it had always been tucked in the back of my brain. Like, I was like, this song is, and I think it's what really my true style is, because it's just, like, so raw. But I came to them, I was like, I actually wrote it in sophomore year when I had a band at ARGS, which was, like, very short-lived and is more, like, for fun. But we had a little band, and, like, we had, like, a little instrumental for it, but we didn't really do anything with it other than, like, play it at lunchtime. But yeah, I wrote it by myself, and then I reached out to Carol Crumbs, because then I was like, oh, I know how it's supposed to sound now. And I knew how it was supposed to sound in the back of my brain, but I don't play drums. And I may play guitar and bass, but not well.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll reach out to them, because they have all the instruments I want. They're all so talented. I know if I tell them what I want to hear, they can do it.
They can convey it properly.
Yeah, they can convey it perfectly, which is what they did. And it was so much fun to write it with them. And, like, I would have these ideas in my brain, and Mateo would be like, oh, like, how about we do this? And I'd be like, that sounds dope. And everything just ended up working out. So Sugar is, like, one of my babies, because that song, it has such a raw message, and it also is, like, my first song I've ever written. So that's why it's so special to me.
And so, you also have this video on your YouTube channel of you doing a live performance on I think on a rooftop of it, or like a parking garage, maybe?
Yeah, it was a parking garage.
And how did that come about? Were you just like, let's do a live version of it?
Yes. I was like, I want to do this so bad. It's just, like, so fun. One of my favorite things. If there's one thing I love more than making music, it's performing. I love to perform. And I was, like, so happy to have a band, like, to back me up, especially such a talented one. They had done a couple shows with me before as well, and I was like, wouldn't we look so cool if we were, like, on the top of a parking garage, like, playing it? It was this whole thing. We thought we were gonna need power for all these things, and I bought, like, this, like, generator just to get there and find an outlet. It was like this whole it was this whole thing. I was like, maybe we should have planned this better, but it was really fun. It was really cold. We sang it, like, 20 times. Like, did, like, a run of it, like, literally 20 times.
Just trying to get a good take in.
Yeah, and it was just a lot of fun. It was really fun. I just had this vision, and I'm the type of person who's like, when I get a vision, when I imagine something and I want something to happen, I'm gonna make it happen. And that was just one of those things.
Yeah. I should have brought water in here.
No, you're right.
And then Real Apology, sort of also in that sort of rockish kind of vein, but not you know,
Mm-hmm.
totally as in it as Sugar is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then we go on to your newest album, Luxury, which came
Yeah.
out recently, right?
Yeah, like last month, almost a month now, like 3 weeks ago. It was like 3 weeks
Really?
ago when it came out. Yes.
Hmm. And going into this, it has sort of a good mix, I think, of what your earlier stuff, like All Eyes on You, is doing, like sort of the more popish
Mm-hmm.
type of stuff, and then the sort of heavier rock type stuff. And what made you want to meld those two in the way that you did? Because I think songs like Kryptonite are very, which we will be playing later on,
Mm-hmm.
are sort of more in the vein of what your older work was. So what made you sort of want to mix those two together for this first official album by you?
I was angry. I was angry. That whole album is basically about my past relationship I was in, and I've been out of it for like a year now. We broke
Mhm.
up like last October, and it was like awful to get out of.
Mhm.
It was just I've never been felt so like manipulated or so like taken advantage of ever
Mhm.
in my life. And I was really confused. Like it took a lot of months of like processing like how I was feeling. And that's basically like what the whole album is about. It's like about like the breakup, but not necessarily like the breakup, but like the damage.
The emotions around it.
Yes, like the emotions and like how I was feeling. 'Cause I couldn't understand how I was feeling because I like blocked out so many things that were
Mhm.
happening that like this album was my only like way of coping and kind of understanding how I was feeling and how I was dealing with this breakup. I mean, I broke up with him, but like it was just it took so long and it was so hard to
Mhm.
like actually do that cuz like every time I would try, it was just like I was roped back in
Mhm.
whole thing. But I mean, that's what my whole album is based around is just like that one breakup except for like For the Weekend. For the Weekend was like when I was like coming out of it and I was like, "All right, we're back on the streets. It's ready to thrive."
Mhm.
But yeah, that's like the whole ambiance of it.
Okay, and you did. I did ask you for three songs that you thought inspired your career up into this point, or that's inspire you to keep making art.
Mhm.
And those are what three songs?
It's In One Ear by Cage the Elephant, Do I Want to Know by Arctic Monkeys, and River by Bishop Briggs.
And why did you choose those three?
So, In One Ear by Cage the Elephant, it's just like the sound. I
Mm-hmm.
love like alt rock. Like that's like what I grew up on.
Mm-hmm.
That is what I still listen to this day. Like I love the sound of it. I know I was about to curse, but I love like what's the word? The edginess.
Mm-hmm.
And In One Ear, it's like basically like an I don't care song. Like I I hear you, but I don't. Like
Yeah.
I'm living my life. I'm thriving. And basically in the song, they say a line like, I don't know why I'm forgetting the line of what it is for some reason, but it's basically like, oh, like I'm doing this music because I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So frick you. I'm gonna do this music. And then Do I Want to Know by Arctic Monkeys. I play bass not well, so don't ever ask me to play bass because I will freeze up and not do okay. Do I Want to Know? I love the bass in that song, and I love the instrumental, and I love the feeling you get when you listen to it, and that's like a sound I always want to strive to have in my music. And then Bishop Briggs River, she's a female like alt artist, and she inspired a lot of my sound growing up. I was obsessed with her music. And it's just awesome to see like a female artist like her who's just so cool, thriving and making great music. And she just really inspired me when I was young. So I would also like practice like my singing to her music because I just loved her sound and it was so unique. So I also saw her live and she was
Mm-hmm.
really cool live and she would like run in place while singing and I was like, how do you do that for like an hour and a half? But yeah, I would say that's sort of why they influenced me.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and roll those songs, and we're back in the studio once again with Marilyn. Uh, while we were gone, we were talking a little bit about your work with RV Mag, and we will come back around to this. I did want to talk real quick about the visual design of everything you do, because I think it is
Mm.
very distinct in the way that you sort of make images for your songs and for your accounts and all that stuff. It's got a very certain. You're very good at matching visuals with the vibe of what you're doing. What was the inspiration behind what made you choose for All Eyes on You? I know that art piece that's done for the cover was by another ARGS alum. That's the high school we went to. What made you go for that for the cover?
Well, usually with all my artwork I choose for my music, I have an image in my brain, and I am not good at art. I'm good at singing. So I know what I want to see, but I can't portray it. So I always know like the perfect person to go to, or like, how to kind of find that look. I wanted something like cartoon-esque, and I saw Sonae's work. She's incredibly talented. I love her art style. I've always loved her art style. We used to ride together on the bus, so I'd always like look at her little sketchbooks, and I just always have loved her styles of art so much. And I was like, I want to look so cool as a cartoon in your art style. And I basically just reached out to her, and I was like, could you add like maybe like this or this? And she found a way to make it happen, and she sent it to me like first try, and I was like, that's perfect. So that was all her. Like I told her, I was like, I literally just sent her pictures of my face so she could like figure out how to draw it right, but like the art, that was all her. I just knew I wanted it to be her art style.
And then for the luxury album cover with these sort of like it looks almost like not like a damaged photograph, but like sort of like
a glitch.
Yeah, like a glitch. Yeah, what was behind that? What was behind the idea for using that?
So I reached out to this photographer Lux. She's a very popular photographer here in Richmond, very talented. She took these photos for me. I ended up posting them on Instagram, all these like portraits and I don't know, like cool photos of me. And I was like messing around with the cover for the album for so long. I was trying to figure out the name too. I was like, what do I want this to be called? And then I was like listening through all my music, like just trying to zone in, figure out like what called to me. And then I was like, luxury, like I'm not your luxury, period. Okay, got it. So messing around with like, I designed that one myself, like the cover art for my album myself. The photo I didn't take myself, obviously, but the design I did myself. And I'm messing around with all these ideas. I'm like, I had like a different name for it at one point. And I have like this picture of myself kind of like off-centered, and like I'm about to send this album in. But the photo, it's like so close to clicking, but it's not clicking. I'm like, it's like cool, I guess, but this isn't really what I'm looking for. And then I just like hit a button, and it added this filter. I really wish it was like more interesting, but like I hit a button and it added this cool filter, and I was like, oh my God, that looks cool. That looks really cool. So it's just going to be like a regular like picture with words on it. But then I found that filter, and I was like, oh, that looks a lot better.
Yeah.
So that's basically how that came out. And then I like added the little sparkles, because it's like, okay, it's like a metaphor for like, I'm a luxury, but not yours. So.
Yeah. So, going back to the RVA Mag thing, how did that come about? Because you're like an actual like, I don't know if you're employed by them, but it's like So
I'm
how
on
did
their
that
team.
how did that end up happening?
So this is crazy. It's a fun story. It's a really fun story. It's a story of determination, I will say. So Jennifer, this woman named Jennifer, she works for here at RVA. I've known her for a while. I used to babysit her kids. Whole story, different story for a different day. Yeah. She reaches out to me, and she was like, would you ever be interested in journalism? And I was like, I never thought about it, but I love to write. That's what I do. I mean, I write music, I write poetry, I write about my problems in my little diary. Like, yeah, like I've always been great at writing. It's always been like my best subject, always something I love to do. So I was like, I mean, I'd definitely be interested. And she was like, oh, like RVA Mag is like looking for some like journalists, all these things. And I was like, oh, cool. She was like, yeah, reach out. Like, I'll give you their information. And she is on the team. So I was like messaging them back and forth, and they're like, sorry, like I think we're looking for someone with a little more experience right now, right? I'm like, ugh, gosh, okay. And then I was like, no, I'm not giving up. So I emailed them back. I was like, what, like, I understand, but like, is there anything I could do to prove myself to you? Like, is there anything I can do to show you my skills? And they were like, a girl with some fire. All right. So they gave me like this prompt and they asked me to make a video. And I did that, and they're actually really impressed with it. And they're like, okay, so it's just writing articles for them for a while. And then they ended up needing someone for their team to run like social media for TikTok. And also just write journalism. They specifically wanted me to write journalism just about like music in the area, underground music scene, underground artists, just cool music stuff. And that's basically what I'm there for. And so that's kind of how that came about. Like I was just writing for them, and they were like, okay, like we want you on the team. And I was like, oh, cool. Like that's awesome. And it's really fun. I love writing. I love like interviewing. My favorite thing about it is I love interviewing artists. And gaining knowledge from them as well, learning the do's and don'ts, like figuring out what inspired them. So not only am I like writing and like making a piece out of these interviews, but I'm also learning, and it's fantastic. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and that's, you know, you're talking about wanting to talk to artists and like how that's what inspired me to start doing this. Is I like seeing the creative process. I like seeing how people come about with the idea of their art, because I think for a lot of people, art's sort of just this thing that happens. You know what I mean? Right. One day an artist is just like, I'm gonna release an album now or whatever, and everybody's like, oh yeah. But seeing that behind the scenes thing, seeing how they think through their art is very interesting to me. Yeah. On the topic of other artists, this is a question I like asking people I know that make music. If you did a cover of any song for that artist, like performing for them, what song would you choose?
Oh my God, that's such a hard question to just throw on the spot. But I feel like I know my answer, but it may throw you off. Toxic by Britney Spears.
Really?
Throw me on stage with Britney. I love Britney Spears. Or like Sweet Escape by Gwen Stefani. Some classic girlies. That's what I grew up with. Like my mom listened to like Britney Spears and Gwen Stefani and Madonna all the time. So
that's interesting. I wouldn't have figured that. Listening to your music, I didn't think you'd be like a pop diva type person.
But I love them. Like I love them. And Britney Spears, I mean, come on, she's like the most iconic woman of all time. And it's also my karaoke song. So like that's why it was like the first thing to come to my brain. But yeah, like I would do like probably like not like the same way she does it. Like the way I sing is like different. But if Britney Spears pulled me on stage and I could sing Toxic with her, I would cry probably. So yeah.
Talking about the way that you sing music, in your creative process, how does a song come about, would you say? Like is it sort of just you start off with these lyrics and then you find music that you really like, or is it sort of vice versa, or is it just sort of like all at once, would you say?
Like how my writing process?
Yeah.
I basically like look for music that I like the sound of. All my beats, like I don't create. Like so I find like music I really like and I like the vibe and I'm like, okay. And every time I write, it's not like okay, I have these lyrics. I mean, there's a couple songs where I'll just like pull out my ukulele or guitar and be like, okay, like mess around. But I always listen to these beats I like and I'll sit there and I'll just sing. And I'll record myself. I have like 100 and hundreds of voice memos on my phone of me just singing whatever to these random beats. And if I find one or if I find a beat and I start singing and I really like what I'm like putting down, I'll go back to the recording and I'll like write through that, or I'll like write down what I liked, or I'll change lyrics. That's literally how my whole album was written. If it's not written that way, it's like freestyling with a friend.
I know you mentioned earlier that you want to get more into the production side of stuff. Do you think do you want to get more into the art of creating your own music and then like the full step from like conception to like whatever?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would love to. It's just so much to learn, but I mean, I don't think there's like any like timeline to when you can start learning that stuff. It's a lot to learn, but it's something you learn like as you go. I also kind of want to get into DJing. I know that sounds like random, but I've just recently, like this past year, started getting really into electronic music, like EDM. and I really love the way EDM music like makes me feel, like just makes me want to dance, you know? And I just feel like being a DJ would be so much fun. So it's like completely different from what I make or like what I used to listen to, but it's so fun. I would definitely love to get into like audio engineering, like mixing for people. I want to start picking up like more instruments, but one step at a time.
You mentioned getting into electronic music. Can we expect to see a Marilyn dance album in the future?
Oh my gosh. I've been thinking about this for a while. Probably not anytime soon. If I were to, I want to make EDM music really bad. But if I were, it would be under a different artist name.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because it's so different from what you normally make.
So different, but...
Speaking of what you normally make, we do have 3 songs of yours lined up here, right? There in the queue. Can you just tell us why you chose these 3 songs to play from your own catalog? What made you choose these 3? We have For the Weekend, Kryptonite, and Real Apology.
Yeah, those are all off my new album. I figured it'd be fun just to play the new album, just because it's new and fresh. For the Weekend, it's a really fun song. I chose it because, you know, it's upbeat, it's catchy. Me and my friend, I actually wrote that with him. We freestyled it. He mixed it for me. He was supposed to be on the song, so I was like, Nate, I really want you on a song with me, bro. Like, I want to make a song with you. And we're just, like, making this song, and, like, there's this, like, open part to it, and he's, like, singing, like, trying to sing, and he's, like, giving me, like, this look of, like, desperation. He's like, I don't think I should be on this song. Because, like, I kind of knocked out the verses. Like, once I found the flow of the song, I was like, yes, like, this is it. And he was just like, I feel like you got this. And so there's a beginning of the song where we're, like, on the phone. You'll understand the story of the song once you hear it. But when we're, like, on the phone, that's him because we mixed it together. And there's, like, that whole empty spot. And we were like, this is perfect. Kryptonite is the first song on my album. And it's just, like, basically about how I felt after my breakup. And just going through the motions. It's slower. It's, like, a little soulful. I don't know if I can't even pronounce that word. But yeah, it's really deep. You really feel it in your bones. And then Real Apology, I actually wrote this song when I was in the relationship with my ex-boyfriend because I felt like he was always apologizing to me, but there's never like actions. And the first line is like, it's like rock. It's like rock alt, I would say, definitely a little like edgier, more like out there than the other two. Like the first line is like, take my phone, see everything inside me, because I literally woke up in the middle of the night to him looking through my phone.
Oh my God.
It was like crazy, like the craziest thing I've ever experienced in my life. But it's things that happen to me. Like sometimes it's something I've had to definitely get like look past with my music. Like this is my story, and some of it like you wouldn't usually say to other people. But like if you're releasing music, like I think it's best to just be like open and be like, hey, I'm a person who goes through crazy things just like every other person. So I feel like that one's also like relatable. And
okay, well, we're gonna go ahead and roll those songs. Like I said, they are For the Weekend, Kryptonite, and Real Apology by
Marilyn Pham.
Yeah. Welcome back to Mason Substation. We're closing it out with Marilyn. Marilyn, before you go, just could you tell me 3 Richmond artists that you love and that you would like to see that you think need more recognition?
Yeah. Obviously I have to shout out my best friend Pino. He works so hard and he's so incredibly talented. I would also like to shout out Cass. His name's Christopher Atkins. He's opening up for me at my show next week, but he is so awesome and so dope and talented. Crazy on the guitar, like actually crazy. I love his music. It's a little like similar to me, but like if a male was doing it and like shredding it like 10 times harder. He's amazing. Another Richmond artist I would say is Mandy Rose. I am like mutual friends with her. She's really cool. She's like pop. She does like bedroom pop, kind of like bad B music, like bad girly music. She's awesome as well.
Okay, cool. What do you have to promote for us here? I know you have your album that just came out recently, Luxury.
Yeah.
And you have a show coming up. Where and when?
I have a show it's the album release show, the Luxury album release show. It's going to be at Richmond Music Hall downtown on East Main Street. It's right next to Capitol Ale House. Tickets are $10 in advance, $13 at the door. Show starts at 6, or the doors open at 6. Show starts at 7. We have like 3 openers. I'll probably go on around 9. I'm really excited for that. This is like my first like headlining show that I've planned on myself. I've been putting work into this for like the past literally like 5 months. Like so much work has gone into the show. So I'm really excited, and I hope to see you guys there.
Okay, well, thank you for joining me today, Marilyn.
I appreciate it.
Marilyn's new album, Luxury, is out now. Marilyn has a show on the
October 27th.
October 27th.
Doors open at 6.
The doors open at 6. Thank you for tuning into Mason Substation. See you next week with whatever, man. This show doesn't have a theme anymore. Cool. Thank you.
Thank you.